Skytown, the losing streak is gone, is done. There's at least a semblance of health and a shift in the positive direction there. And we have a win to talk about with the special guest. Go ahead and be a little patient with us while we get into the intro, and then I'll get into everything that's going on in Skytown with our special guest after this quick break. Welcome to another episode of the CHGO Sky Podcast. I'm your host here, Stephen PridGeon-Garner. We appreciate all of you all making time on a busy evening in the middle of the week to tap in with us as you always do. Don't forget to make sure when you do tap in, leave a like and also subscribe to our CHGO_sports, the general page on YouTube. And you also want to make sure you leave some comments as well to engage in the conversations that are had during the show. But we are coming to you live, obviously being CHGO Sky Pod. I want to make sure you visit sunnyside.shop for bright buys every day, including 50% off your first 3 online purchases. Enter promo code HICHGO at checkout to qualify. Exclusions apply. Sunnyside Cannabis Dispensary, bright buys every day. And it's only good for you all that are 21 or older or IL medical card holders. So make sure you stay aligned with that part of it all. But without further ado, the one and only, I'm sure you've seen her on many games. I'm sure you've enjoyed the perspectives that she's brought from the sidelines. Kalia Butler, how you doing?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I guess before we dive into, the multitude of topics we have for today's show, your first season covering the Chicago Sky as a sideline reporter. Talk to us about just kind of the journey for you to get to where you are now, the preparation that goes into the everyday, and maybe one of your favorite parts about this opportunity that you've earned.
Yeah, I would say I'm very blessed to have this opportunity very early on in my career. I just finished grad school last summer. So this time last year, I was at my grad capstone with the Patriots. And I didn't know what I was going to be doing afterwards, graduation, just like, well, I'm going to apply to places. And it just so happened that becoming the sideline reporter for the Chicago Sky worked out. And again, really blessed to have an opportunity to work with a professional team so early on in my career, and just knowing everybody trusted me to take on the job. I really appreciate that. And it's just been a wonderful experience, from the producers I work with, other broadcasters, everyone behind the scenes, to working with the actual staff, working with the players. It's been an environment that I feel like I can grow in, and it's just a very welcoming environment head to toe. And I would say my favorite aspect of it, or maybe one of my favorite moments, that one's hard to choose, because I just say I appreciate every game. I appreciate every practice. I appreciate every player and coach that I get to talk to. But I would say my favorite moment so far was my very first game that I had. I was so nervous. And Dwayne Wade was at the game, and they're like, go ask him for an interview. I was like, me? What? They're like, yeah, you're the sideline reporter. Go ask him for an interview. So my first ever game, I got to interview Dwayne Wade, who obviously just such a staple in Chicago basketball and just NBA in general. But it was funny because I've never met him before, but I've been waiting for this moment since 7th grade, because we both had the same math teacher. He had her in high school and I had her in middle school. And the moment she told me that, I used to love Dwayne Wade, I still do, but I was a huge Dwayne Wade fan growing up. And he said, and when she told our class that I had been waiting every day since 7th grade to meet Dwayne Wade and be we both had Mrs. Perello. So that was the day to do it. But that's been my favorite part so far. at least one of them.
That's a pretty full circle moment,
Yeah.
especially for anybody that's grown up in the Chicagoland area. Even if you're an outsider looking in, I think you'll understand just how much of a pillar Dwayne Wade is. On my side of things, I had the pleasure of meeting D Wade right before the 2003 draft. He was leaving within hours of when I met him. I forgot how old I was, but I was at the Michael Finley basketball camp over in Maywood at Proviso East, and he had Dwayne Wade come in as a special guest to speak with us and sign some autographs and take some pictures with us. So young me ended up meeting one of my favorite basketball players, and you see him hanging up behind me now. At a very young age, before I really knew kind of what a favorite basketball player was. At that time, it was just Michael Finley because I had met him in person for a few years. So shout out to Dwayne Wade. And while we're on the topic, if you happen to see this, we would love to have you on the podcast as well. So if you happen to see it, get in touch with us and we can make it happen. But as for today's episode, the Chicago Sky, coming off of a weeks-long losing streak, being able to establish a win in a comfortable fashion against the team that last time they played them, they didn't have the most fun against. And I think largely they lost that last game against the Mystics because of turnovers in particular. They just kind of caught a case of turnover rash, and it was possession after possession. And at that point, the game was kind of out of reach. So for you, from your perspective, looking at things from the sideline, as we've seen kind of the injuries surmount and the losses kind of compile, what's been your kind of gauge of the kind of temperament of the team as far as confidence and maybe even potentially buy into what it is that they're working towards?
Yeah, I think naturally, as somebody that, to some extent is an extension of the team. I see these women all the time. I'm at their practices, I'm at their games, I'm having conversations with them. You want them to do well. Like you internally start rooting for them no matter what. I would say I think their temperament is actually really interesting and very commendable, because I think there's this understanding that they are going through some of these woes of losing key players due to injury. You're basically starting brand new again with a new head coach, understanding how to play with each other. And then again, just like constantly having to switch your rotations, players shifting spots and playing positions that they haven't previously really had that much exposure to, but then having this expectation to perform. I think there's a lot that goes into it that not everybody fully understands. So yeah, you may look at the games and just be like, oh, they're losing, but there's just so much more to it than like every single player on that roster is a great player. And if you take out anybody's top two leading scorers, if you take out a Courtney Vanderloot on literally any team with a brand new head coach on top of it, even if it's a 10-year coach, you're going to have a very difficult time losing games, especially against other teams that are maybe at full strength. So I would say that they have done a fantastic job at keeping their confidence. And I think something that they've really just constantly regimented is just understanding that this is a sisterhood. I would say that if you ask any player on the team, they will just speak so highly of another player, and they will all talk about how much they love each other. And I think just them staying connected, I literally never hear them say anything negative on the bench or anything. Like if there's a huddle, they are constantly just uplifting each other. And they'll correct each other in a way that's just, this is me giving you feedback. This is for the success of the team. Like nobody's like, I can't believe you do this or so-and-so. All of them really care for each other, and all of them are genuinely trying to go out each game and win and support the player next to them. So I would say I think their confidence is very commendable. Even I think yesterday was a really good boost for them, and being able to get a win without Angel on the court, I think is good for them too. But I would say this is a team that's playing together and it's just going through some woes this season.
I would say, especially for not necessarily the expectations of fans, but the expectations that this particular group had on themselves based off of the talent that they brought in and the way that those pieces fit. It's been underwhelming in terms of the win-loss record, but that undermines context. And maybe the most important piece of context is just the lack of availability. I think yesterday was the 12th rendition of a starting lineup, which is the second most in the W this season. And that, I think that is more of an example of kind of the adversity that they've been working through on the season's entirety as anything else. You mentioned not having Courtney Vanderloot, Ariel Atkins coming back for her first game since I think July 14th. Mm-hmm. So it's been a couple of weeks. It's been almost close to a month for her in terms of time missed. That's a lot to have not been working with, in addition to Angel having not played for the last handful of games, consistently at least, that is. I don't think that's a process that's set up for anyone to be successful to the extent of any semblance of expectations. And I feel like if people are kind of assessing or looking at things in a non-process oriented manner, I think you can kind of misvalue the work that is being done, the corners being turned, the buy-in being established, the culture being established here. There's been a lot of discourse about Tyler Marsh and company and just generally his coaching staff on social media. Of course, it's not informed. People can only speak on what they see, but I think that tells like a third of the story. Naturally, things might not look the best when losses are compiling and you have expectations and things like that. But what's going on in those other 2/3 at practice and non-basketball related in terms of the relationships being built? I think that the things that you speak to in terms of the women having each other's backs in multiple capacities that's shown up is much of an indictment, or as much of an example of, the buy-in and the culture being established. So I don't think they get to yesterday's win, even in the kind of fragmented version of the roster that they have, without those things that are going on behind the scenes when the camera's not on, just culture-wise and, buy-in-wise. So I think that yesterday was a very important win for them. I think, obviously, yes, it's the Mystics, and yes, the Sky are still multiple games behind the playoff race, but it's a step in the right direction. Did you have any other thoughts on yesterday's game before we kind of glance over the box score and then transition to talking about Kamilla?
I would say in general, I think this team shows really good glimpses of what they can be. I would say at times they are not always the most consistent. And again, I think that some of that is just more external factors. But even just like when you look at an Elizabeth Williams, like I think obviously you have the bigger names on the team, but I think some of the players that maybe aren't as much of a household name, but play a big significance in the significant part of the game, the roster, the culture that they're developing in general. When you look like at an Elizabeth Williams and the numbers that she's been able to put up, especially in the absence of Angel Reese and her being able to step into a starting lineup role, being able to take a back seat and come off the bench at times. Like, I think there's a lot of, again, it goes back to the context aspect of things where it's just that's difficult for any player to have to manage, to constantly have. You're getting into a flow and you constantly have to readjust because of injuries, because of you're changing your lineup for the 12th time. You were usually coming off the bench in the first timeout and now you're coming out the second. It's just like there's certain things where there's a lot of other players on this team that are contributing to this team's success overall. But I also think it's important to note that, again, Angel is still a missing factor to this team, but the significance of Ariel Atkins and the veteran leadership that she brings, again, somebody who has won a WNBA championship and is a very high caliber player, maybe not as well known as some of, the other stars on the team, but just kind of the control and leadership that she has of the group. Every time they go into huddles, every time they go into timeouts, Ariel is one of the first players that is ever speaking. And she is constantly leading the team. And I think that everything that she does off the court, everything she does in the huddles directly translates to some of the team's success on the court. And you can just tell that she is able to take control of the unit that she has and take control of the floor. So I think having her back and having somebody that has a deep understanding of the game, high basketball IQ, understanding of just the caliber of players that they have on the team was very vital as well. And sometimes all you need is one win to completely just like shift your mindset back to, all right, we got to get back in this no matter how much season we have left. So I think yesterday was an important win for them, breaking an 8-game losing streak.
Yeah, the saying goes, winning cures all, right? Like, I will hope that's the case for the Sky, because I do feel like there are multiple games, even if it doesn't end in a playoff berth per se. I think there are multiple games that they can kind of help to bridge the gap between this season and everything that is to go forward into free agency, into the CBA, and then ultimately whatever next season has in store for them. So looking at yesterday's game, obviously you get a win at Wintrust Arena, 78-64 over the Washington Mystics, as we mentioned at the top of the show. Ariel Atkins' first game back since July 14th. She chipped in 15 and 5 for the team, accounted for a significant portion of their points in the fourth quarter, amidst a Mystics run that kind of started to have them shrink that deficit that they were working into the fourth quarter with. Ariel comes in, chips in a little bit, and then gets back out of the game and is able to finish the game healthy and in a decent rhythm that she can kind of build off of. And I think that part was important, especially because she's such an integral piece to everything that they've invested in terms of how they even brought her talent to Chicago to begin with, but also the way that she kind of fits with the other pieces that they have on the roster. So I guess we can kind of go with some initial thoughts from you on everything that you saw from Ariel yesterday, and then we can kind of talk about her season a little bit before we transition.
Yeah, I think Ariel, you could tell that in the first half, she was kind of getting her rhythm back. When I had talked to her pregame, Ariel is like one of those very like seasoned veterans when it comes down to anything, when it comes down to how she's preparing for a game, how she speaks to media, everything. Like when it is game time, like Ariel's one of the sweetest people ever. When it's game time, she is very locked in. So I was talking to her pregame, just kind of, how she was feeling being back, what her leg was feeling like. And she was just kind of saying that she felt good. She had been able to ramp it up a little bit this week throughout practice, has been able to get back to full speed a little bit, taking more contact and everything, just preparing in that sort of way. She said the biggest thing was her just getting like her lungs back. And I think anybody that has played basketball knows that being in basketball and game shape is completely different than anything else. And if you have like a month off of playing in a game, that's very hard to just go back out there and just go pedal to the metal. So I would say that first half, I feel like she was kind of trying to get her legs back under her a little bit. And then I think that third quarter, you kind of saw that clutch gene in her really starting to come alive, and then just being able to finish the game in the fourth quarter. I think Ariel's a fantastic player. I think she handles the ball really well. She can go downhill. She opens up a lot of other opportunities for her other players. So I think that second half was very telling that Ariel is back and she's feeling good, and hopefully we can keep her on the healthy track.
Yeah, Ariel is such a gamer. She is just such a thinker of the game, a feeler of the game, and then also being able to give that knowledge and that acumen to her teammates to raise the level of play for the other four players on the floor with her. That's why I was so big on when the Sky were rumored to have been interested in her and ultimately were able to push that deal across the finish line. Now, obviously, the context shifted with Courtney Vanderloot getting hurt and then Angel getting hurt as well. There's a lot of moving parts with that. But I think that going forward, if they can retain her talents and keep her around, I think she's a piece that can add to everything that they're looking to establish around Angel and Kamilla. I think one of the biggest barometers for me with Ariel, because she's such a multi-talented type of player, a true two-way, elite two-way type of talent, she gets double-teamed a lot. And that's not new to her. Last season with the Mystics, she got double-teamed about as much as anyone not named, I think, Jewel Lloyd or Marina Mabry last season. Going to this season, she's top 5 in percentage of possessions where she does get double-teamed as well. Early on, it was definitely a little rust on there that she had to kind of get back ingratiated to game speed. But you could tell she started getting a little bit more aggressive. She got her sweat going, got her feet wet, if you will. Started turning the corner and looking a lot more like the Ariel that has been an all-star and been all-W multiple times, as well as an Olympic gold medalist too. So as she continues to get more games under her belt coming back, she'll be fine. I'm looking forward to seeing how Ariel being back and the growth of Kamilla over the time where Ariel was out kind of meet in the middle somewhere, and they can kind of grow together in that. And I think that's a perfect transition to our next topic, who is the one and only sophomore, one of the two Twin Towers, Kamilla Cardoso. I'm curious for you, just in having spent so much time around the team, whether it's on the court or just like person-to-person relationship with her teammates, how have you seen Kamilla grow kind of behind the scenes from where public eye usually doesn't see?
Yeah, I think Kamilla has like more personality than meets the eye. I think anybody in media knows like Kamilla doesn't really like cameras. So I think sometimes it's hard to showcase her personality just because she kind of shuts off when cameras come on. And I mean, not everybody loves cameras, so I completely understand. But I think when you're watching her in like practices, shoot arounds, she is constantly smiling. Like she is always laughing, having a good time. And I just think her positive energy is very contagious. I think, yeah, a lot of it just comes, she's always smiling. Like she's just always in a good mood. I think that's more than meets the eye in terms of just how much personality she really has and just kind of how driven she is to succeed. And I think sometimes we see spurts of it. I think at times, working on her consistency a little bit more. But I mean, at this point, she's had 5 double, or I think this last game was her 6th double game within like the past 7 games. So I think it's her also. I mean, Angel had talked about having a sophomore slump at the beginning of the season. I wouldn't necessarily consider Kamilla's like a sophomore slump. I think she was still performing well, but I think now that she has, gotten into this rhythm, she took a little break, was playing with her Brazilian national team, then coming back and kind of learning how to, play with her teammates again. I think she has gotten comfortable. And I think even just the addition of Sevgi Uzun, having another guard and somebody that understands how to feed Kamilla. And I think another part is like Angel was also very good at feeding Kamilla. They had a really good connection with each other. And, obviously like it's a post job to, be in the paint, get open, find their spacing. But it's hard when you're asking other players to try and facilitate for that when they aren't naturally in those sort of positions. So kind of trying to learn. But I think with this addition of Sevgi, it's showing Kamilla's growth a lot as well. Because honestly, if you throw it into Kamilla, she's going to catch the ball. She has very active hands. She has wonderful hands. And I think you've seen her be a lot more aggressive, which is something that she's mentioned too. I think she has had this sort of drive with how the season is going, the absence of Angel, to just kind of push a little bit harder and showcase what she's capable of. So I would say, like, I mean, even last game, she had a great game too, another double-double. And it's almost becoming like an average for her now. So I think there's a lot behind the scenes of she works very hard. She's a very athletic player. And, there's definitely benefits to being 6'7". But I think a big part of her is she has a wonderful personality as well.
I think you made some great points. For those that don't play on or haven't played on like teams, organized teams, whether it be middle school, high school, elsewhere, you can maybe not necessarily understand how personality helps to kind of break the mundaneness of a season, whether it's a successful season, a mediocre season, or a season that leaves more to be desired. Having that personality just on a day-to-day, where you come into work and your teammates or your coworkers are like, okay, I'm looking forward to being around X person here because that person always has an uplifting personality or a very like youthful exuberance to where it grows contagious, honestly. Like you might have some vets that are kind of dreading coming into the day because of the arduous schedule and the lack of structure with it from the WNBA. But if you get around Kamilla and she's being that upbeat type of youthful personality that she is, how can you be down? She's gonna pull you up and might figuratively and literally do it herself, based off of the things that I've been able to see over the last 2 seasons. So I think that part is very, very important, especially when you're talking about younger players and how they can kind of mesh with veterans. And to the veterans point, it's tough for me, and I would definitely love to get your thoughts because I think you touched on it a little bit. But I think coming into this season, Tyler Marsh, Jeff Pagliacca, they were all looking at the addition of Courtney Vanderloot like it's cool for a homecoming, but there's also a major purpose to serve in expediting the skill development of not just Angel, but Kamilla as offensive pieces, particularly in pick and roll, but also them having someone that's steady-handed that knows how to get them the ball in the post with the right timing. Can you kind of speak to what you've seen in that? Because I think you mentioned players being out of position for that role. Rachel Benham is someone that I've kind of sung praises for the last couple of weeks because of how she's kind of assumed the point guard role of late.
Yeah, I think if you just the accolades of Courtney Vanderloot, she's very hard to match. Like nobody is Courtney Vanderloot. There are fantastic guards in the league, but nobody is Courtney Vanderloot. Nobody has been playing, for 15 years, coming back, winning a championship, coming back to somewhere where she had already won a championship. And even just the idea of, like Candace Parker, a big reason of her coming to Chicago was because of Courtney Vanderloot. So what better person to have around rookies that will be the future, face and of the WNBA, surrounding them with Courtney. So, I mean, it's such an unfortunate loss to have Courtney go out like that and go out so early in the season as well. And I think right away you could tell her impact, not even just like on Angel and Kamilla, but on Rachel and Haley. She was also kind of training them to be point guards as well. Rachel was playing behind Courtney, and Rachel's not naturally a point guard. And it's really hard to, as somebody that's typically, a shooting guard in that 2 spot, to take on that point guard role and do it effectively and efficiently all the time. I think Rachel has done a really good job at it. And even like with Haley, she's still a rookie. The WNBA is no joke. I think people push their expectations onto her as well. And I think she does it herself. I don't think she expected to have this sort of season. You come from college where you are very successful, you're used to winning a bunch of games, to going on an 8-game losing streak and not even really seeing the court that much. That's a really harsh reality for a player that had, again, so much success in college. But just back to the point of with Courtney Vanderloot, she just has so much impact on every single person, from the staff to the roster. And again, just that facilitating aspect. She went through a phase where she was, I think it was like a good 5 years in the WNBA where she was averaging like double-digit figures for just assists in a game. That is that's not human. Like she's like supernatural. She has such a great vision on the game. She knows how to manipulate defenses. She reads so well, and she puts people in positions to be successful. And she's had 15 years of experience doing it. I think, what she provides and her loss, like nobody would have ever expected that. Yeah, you expect injury. Do you expect a season-ending injury that early on? No. So I just think what the Sky's been able to do without Courtney and finding some pieces to fill in for her, I think that they have put a valiant effort into it. But I think any team losing a Courtney Vanderloot, that's tough to bounce back from.
I mean, however you want to rank all-time great point guards, you can't even have that conversation if Courtney Vanderloot is not heavily included and involved in that. Is she number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however you want to rank it? She's in that group of players. And that speaks to not just the literal statistical output, but the the mental load that she takes off of others, because they realize, okay, Sluter's on the court. She's got the ball. She's not going to turn it over. She's also going to put people in positions to be successful, to where now it's not just someone else has to bring the ball up the court, but someone else also has to organize the offense in the half court and understand the ebbs and flows of games and understand the little things like, okay, Ariel likes to come off of screens on the left side of the court. Let's get her coming off of that so that she can come off to this hand and XYZ. And, you know, those little floor general type of gamesmanship reps that come with the experience and the all-time talent that is Courtney Vanderloot. So I think that part puts a little bit of a pin in the skill development balloon for Kamilla. However, she still found opportunity to grow this season. I like the ways that they've gone about Tyler shifting her usage some to, it's not just post touches. She can do a little bit with the dribble. She can come off of dribble handoffs at times. They've kind of snuck some of the guards in the screen for her when she does have the ball too. Like just little things like that to experiment with in a positive way, I think have helped. But generally, to your point that you made in the beginning about Kamilla, she's in a good space on the mental side of things, and you can tell the confidence that's continuing to build up with her with each game that passes. I could talk about Kamilla for another like 6 hours and probably not recycle topics, but for constraints of today's episode, did you have any more thoughts that you wanted to get off, whether it be behind the scenes or just personal things that you've noticed about Kamilla this season?
I just think in general, it's hard when kind of just like going back to the whole college aspect of things. Obviously, it's still only her second year in the league. I think when you come off of, winning a national championship in college, your team literally goes undefeated. You come to Chicago, you have a pretty successful first year. You're part of the skyscrapers. You're coming in. I think sometimes there's just this level of expectation on these very young players to come in and just have like world dominance, going against veterans that have been playing for years that are very successful WNBA players. Like making the WNBA is not easy. There's literally like 12 spots on a roster. So I think the development is absolutely there, and I think that she's going to continue to grow. But I think getting reps is invaluable, and literally any sort of reps are important for me. Reps are important for literally anybody who is employed in some way. Just getting repetition and getting game time speed. She's just going to continue to grow. And I think she's like one of the leading players for second chance opportunities. I think just, her rebounding as well, and just her ability to clean up the glass. I think that's something that is just going to continue for her. So I think she's another player that when you see her a couple years down the line, like you're just gonna be like, she just keeps adding to her bag.
Yeah, she's definitely a player that would greatly benefit from having the pieces that are desired to have been around her be there like in a sustained manner in terms of health. You mentioned all of the pieces that are proficient at getting her the ball at her spots. That changes a lot. It eases the burden on her. It allows for her to experiment with other layers of her game. And I'm looking forward to when that time does come for her. Hopefully she gets a little bit of time with Angel and Ariel back in the lineup together down the home stretch of this season. But as we transition, speaking of the rest of the season, the Chicago Sky have one of the easier schedules. I believe they have a top 5 in terms of easiest schedule based off of the win-loss percentage of their opponents the rest of the way. I think they're 5th in that, if I'm not mistaken. So there's opportunity there for them to go and get some wins. Hopefully they get back healthy in doing so. Before we dive into the Tyler Marsh of it all, do you have any kind of expectations or things that you're looking for the team down the home stretch?
I think you kind of hit it, just really trying to make sure that this team can remain healthy. I think that's one of the most important aspects. Because, and kind of like going back to the point earlier, I think this is a team that's laying the foundation of a really good culture and just trying to build upon that. But yeah, I think being healthy is one of the biggest factors for them now. and just trying to finish out the season on a high note. Obviously, the playoffs might not be as much of a conversation for them anymore, but it doesn't mean that the season has ended. And I don't think that's not the mindset that they have either. I mean, obviously, would you love to get into playoff contention? Yeah, but the reality of the situation is, you had to go through some things this year. But I think really just trying to end the season on as high of a note as possible, getting a couple more wins under their belt, and just showing the brand of basketball that they can have. I think they have a lot of good pieces. I'm not necessarily sure, what this team will look like next season. But I think as of right now, just trying to stay healthy and just ending the season on as high of a note as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Even the marginal gains, like let's just say Haley turns into a main rotation player between now and the end of the season, even if it's just 5 points and 2 assists, like something like that, I think would something that you can build around and kind of bridge the gap going into next season. All right, to kind of the rounding out topic for today's episode, looking at everything Tyler Marsh. Definitely not the most fair hand in terms of what he's been given in his rookie season as a head coach. But I think his rebuttal would also be to me that being a head coach is not being fair. Like there's nothing fair about the blessing that is that opportunity. And you just gotta kind of have to just work with what you got because a lot of things are out of your control, which you've kind of mentioned a handful of times. So just kind of bringing all of the context together with injuries and the other adversities that the team has worked up against this season. What's been your kind of assessment as we get to like the 75% range of the schedule being completed now?
And I'm sorry, ask that again in terms of Tyler.
Yeah, in terms of Tyler at this point in the season, knowing that, he's still got a little bit of opportunity left this season, but a majority of it has gone.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit that one too in terms of this hasn't been the easiest rookie season for Tyler. And I think a lot of the players themselves will say that. I think Tyler does a really good job he holds himself accountable a lot. He holds himself to a high standard. He holds the players to a high standard. But unfortunately, your rookie season, you have your veteran point guard go out to an ACL tear early on. You manage that, but you don't have really another point guard on your team. So I think, you're kind of really banking out on Courtney. Now, are there again, when we think of when we think of ball handlers, Rachel, Ariel, Haley, I think they really have done a wonderful job at trying to take control of that, point guard range or point guard perception. But it's just like they're not necessarily always in that role. There's some of them are really wonderful just shooting guards. And I think Haley has done a really good job of the minutes and trying to optimize the minutes that she has gotten. Rachel has been doing a really great job. Obviously, Ariel, having her back was huge, and just the ability for her to handle the ball as well. But again, just when you have somebody like Courtney Vanderloot on your roster and losing her, it's difficult for anyone. So I think having a losing a true point guard early on in the season was difficult, obviously. And then, for a period of time, you're losing two of your top two scorers in Ariel and Angel. That's another very difficult thing to go through. So I think Tyler has done, I think he's done the most he possibly can with what has been thrown at him this season. I think he's maintained a very positive outlook on it every single time. And, he, at the end of the day, he really emphasizes, having his team go out there and compete. And I think some of it is just, the execution standpoint of things. You just got to make sure that they're going out he can only control so much to some degree. And I think sometimes he gets a lot of, fire from that, but sometimes it is an execution aspect of things. And again, when you think of all the external factors that are going on with this team, I think they're making the most of the cards that they have been dealt, essentially. And I just think for Tyler, you have Ariel back. And again, it's just the same idea of what can we kind of look forward to next season? The season isn't necessarily going the way you had anticipated for it to, but kind of to your point again, who are some players that we can look to for maybe like next season? Who can you build upon? How can you keep maintaining this culture? I mean, Tyler has learned from two fantastic coaches. I mean, he was with the Aces. He understands what it takes to, win a championship. He was with the Pacers for some time. So he has been surrounded by some really wonderful just coaches. So he's learned from some of the best. And again, he's kind of just been dealt a difficult rookie season. So, but I just think his demeanor, his approach to every single game, I think he's done a really great job at maintaining a level head and not getting too frustrated. And I think he just does such a wonderful job at connecting with the team. Every single one of the players say that, they want to play for him. And I mean, even just having his dad on the coaching staff as well. His dad is like one of the sweetest people ever. But they just take so well to them. Like the players on the team take so well to both Donnie, who's his dad, and Tyler. And me personally, I just think that speaks volumes that they care about what they have a belief behind Tyler. Like they want to go out and fight for him. It's been a difficult season, but it's not really like, it's not an internal thing. They got to fix some of the external aspects of things. And again, I'm not sure what that roster will look like next season, but I think they've built a really strong foundation in terms of culture, and now just kind of trying to figure out, okay, like how can we build this team around each other a little bit more?
Yeah, I think a lot of what you mentioned is very, very well said, especially given the proximity to the team that you work in on a near daily basis. From my side of things, with Tyler, I see a lot of questions and discourse about why is he not trying new things? Why is he not implementing new lineups? Why is he not, doing all of these different things? My rebuttal all season long has been, it's been happening. Now, the question at hand that I think might be leading to the lack of understanding is, to your point, how much of a lack of execution is getting in the way of the growth part of things for them. Now, naturally, context-wise, the biggest thing in the execution part, not having potentially your team's leader in Courtney Vanderloot, yet alone the starting point guard for your franchise, that shifts everything. Yet and still, we've seen them implement new actions, new sets over the course of the season. Rachel Banham is not running the same sets and actions and plays that she did to start the season. Angel Reese, when she's healthy, is not even being used remotely close to the way that she was last season or the way that she was through the first 5 games of this season now. We just got done talking about the growth and usage of Kamilla Cardoso. We talked about Ariel Atkins being double-teamed as much as anybody else. Are you just throwing that person to the wolves, or are you doing things to kind of mitigate that? It's the latter rather than the former. They're kind of doing things schematically to help kind of lessen the blow of the double team so that she can be successful and do the things that she needs for the team to be its best. Talk about lineups. Michaela Onyenwere was not playing much early in the season. We get to this point, she's a relevant player in the rotation. In fact, starting the last handful of games for them, immediately coming back from injury and doing so with good production. Elizabeth Williams was not playing many minutes with Kamilla Cardoso to start the season. We get to this point, and she's literally starting and playing minutes over the course of the game with Kamilla rather. Those little things matter in terms of if you're asking for new things to be tried. And that can also go in turn to the defensive end with them experimenting with things too. So I know fans don't like to hear process because that means patience. And fans will also like to hear grace because that also means patience as well. But for a rookie head coach in a season where the pieces that you came into the season hoping to have by the end of it, you just haven't had, or you've only had in fragmented segments, grace has to be extended. And I think you find the little bits of process that's expedited to kind of glean. And I think for that part, he's done as much with that as he can that's in his control. So grace and trust the process. I apologize if that's not what y'all want to hear, but I feel like that's where they're at right now. And until they get the troops back healthy in some capacity, at least just having Angel and Ariel in the lineup together, it might just be uneven results. So, all right, Kalia, I appreciate your time on today's show. I want to give you the floor to pub any of your work, any of your socials that you want to, any of your teammates, because you have some wonderful teammates that we've had the pleasure of speaking hoop with on this very podcast a couple of times before. So, floor is yours. Speak on any and everything that you would like to.
I want to add something really quick to your point about Angel's usage as well. Mm-hmm. Obviously, she's out right now dealing with a back injury, but I just her kind of breakout into this season as well. And it's unfortunate that it had to come to an end for the time being, but to see her, and I mean, she said it herself, she wasn't playing great in those probably like stretch of 8 games to begin the season. She wasn't necessarily, able to finish. And she gets a lot of hate for that. She is somebody who's also just in her second year in the WNBA, very difficult league to play in. Her jump from, maybe not being able, and I feel like even just a confidence aspect of things, her jump from the beginning of the season to when we were getting into like that middle section of the season where she's averaging a double consistently. People are saying, oh, she only gets her own rebounds, but she's literally leading the league in all rebounds, especially defensive rebounds and offensive rebounds. And just the command that she has of the team as well. She is a very respected player by not only the league, but obviously her own teammates as well. And the fact that she's been able to take on this new position of stretching the floor and kind of going back to, her roots in sort of like high school. She was doing a little bit at Maryland, but again, asking a player to try new things and giving them, to your point, the grace to do that. And then seeing her actually really excel doing it. I just think she deserves her flowers on that as well. And I really hope that she can get back healthy sometime soon because it's very clear that when she's on the floor that they can be a very dominant team. But in general, I would say this has just been a very fantastic organization to work with. And I could not have asked for a better group of human beings to be around. And that's everybody from the coaching staff of the Sky, PR, everyone, the players, production, everything. I just think they have a really wonderful organization that cares about every single person that is involved, no matter what they're doing. And for me, as a first year, this is my first real year broadcasting, being able to work with a team like that. I just really appreciate it. So I think the Sky organization has been fantastic through and through. And I really hope this is like the beginning of a championship team down the line, where it's like I'm looking back at like a 2014 season or something, and we're just missing a couple of key stars, and then all of a sudden, a couple years down the line, we're all cheering for a championship. But I think that they're doing a good job with some of the woes that they're facing, and it's been a great organization to be around.
You heard it there. That is Kalia Butler. You can find her on Twitter at it's Butler_Kalia, correct?
Yeah.
So Butler_Kalia if you want to find her on Twitter. Obviously, you can find me on Twitter at Stephen PG3, and you can find the show's Twitter account at CHGO_Sky. We'll definitely have updates for the games coming. You'll obviously see Kalia for the home games on TV as well. So look forward to kind of all of those things, and who knows, maybe we'll have Kalia back on to round out the season and speak on everything that was 2025 for the Sky sometime soon. So Kalia, again, appreciate your work, appreciate the time that you carved out in the schedule for the podcast, and all of the insights that you provided. You do a great job with your job, and we're looking forward to doing more of that going forward. So thank you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on today.
And we appreciate everybody in the comments on YouTube as well that tapped in. As always, make sure you subscribe to our CHGO Sports account on YouTube. Leave comments as well. We appreciate all of those things. And Until next time, y'all be blessed, stay safe, and take care of yourselves.
We all silly like the mayor.